So, approximately 5 days ago, I decided that I wanted to run a poll to see what you guys would prefer me do since I'm not going to be playing Albion quite as much as I normally would be. And you guys decided that you'd rather see more time between Ironman episodes 9 and 10 rather than seeing it upload from a different game. Of course, I took the popular vote, and here we are. I still ended up playing Albion much more than I intended to, and so we got a lot done. That means that we are going to go ahead and make this an episode 10 special. And without further ado, welcome to episode 10 of my Iron Man series. Let's get right into it. Seeing as it was a special, I was actually going to end up making my two separate goals into two different videos. However, I think it's worthy of just one video for you guys because I never actually truly thanked you guys for 1,000 subscribers. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. I know it's actually been a few episodes since that happened. I don't think I ever said anything directly, but thank you guys so much for making that possible. You guys are the best. And I'm hoping to continue the content going really strong into the future. I know that Corrupted Dungeons are coming out on August 12th, and I've already experimented just a little bit, and I have a couple of thoughts to them, but we're not going to be talking about them. But we had two major goals that I combined into one because one is required for the other. So we went for the farther goal that I actually was planning on releasing probably 4 days from now instead originally. And so this is why I would think this is a special, mostly because it really did take a lot of time. So here is the first thing that we did. As you can see in the background, we were gathering tier 6 stone. This was one of the goals that I had in mind for quite some time, and I knew it was going to be kind of a pain. And you saw in the background that I was gathering a red zone for quite a while, but I also went to the black zone. I got there, did a lot of gathering, died to a 1v5, went back to red zone after remaking my gear, and spent the next hour and a half to 2 hours gathering stone there. I had a ton of stone whenever I was in the black zone, but of course I was like 10 zones from the portal. I was near Arthur's Rest. I was in the first zone out of it. Of course, it wasn't going to be very safe, but I basically died. So we ended up going to red zone. Took a while to get the stone, but once we finally got it, we could upgrade our stone cutter, which is a massive goal. And this part alone probably took me roughly a day and a half, mostly just because it was kind of frustrating, and I had a couple other things I was working on at the time. And so we had a little bit of work ahead of us at the time, but that was just the very beginning. This is the first 4 of, I think, 26 clips that I have for this episode. So, yeah, we have a lot to talk about today. Upgrading the stone cutter to tier 6 is really, really big. And the main reason why it's such a big deal is because it allows me to bypass having to gather tier 6 stone, which is very, very slow. Even if it's like I do it just right, I'm safe, I never die, it's just a very slow process. This allows me to do content that I enjoy more, like clearing dungeons or doing whatever, gathering other materials, but it also allows me to just do it passively over time. It saves time, it's more interesting, so being able to transmute is a massive deal, but the problem is it's very, very expensive. Yeah, we only have a little bit, that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and transmute all of the tier 4 stone that we have, which is going to cost 431,000 silver, and we can do another 1,200 to tier 6 for 1.4 million silver. This might not seem worth it to a lot of you guys, but to me this is actually really, really good, because gathering this stone, it took me roughly 2 hours to get 90 pieces, and so even if I was gathering in black zone where I could gather it a little more consistently, 200,000 silver, which is what I get in less than an hour, is double that. So this is totally worth it. It may seem like a waste to you guys, but to me, this is absolutely 100% worth what I'm doing. Alright, so even though I have this huge boar, I'm weighed down by quite a bit, because I have a lot of crafting I'm about to do. So my goal is to get 600 tier 6 blocks, and that's for a few upgrades. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a lot of tier 3s, easy peasy. And now we're going to start with using our enchanted stone, and then we're going to use the last of our 4-2, which we don't have much of, and then we're going to use just a touch of our regular tier 4 stone. Okay, so we only need what looks like 120 blocks, so that's where we're going to start, and that will be more than enough. And now we need to transmute some stone, so we can toss a bunch of silver this way, but we only need 500 blocks, which means I should be able to do all of this and be able to have just a little bit left over because of the resource return rate. Now we're going to have to use our focus points to make sure that we get enough stone blocks, but I am more than willing to do that as I don't really use my focus on much else. So no big deal. We're going to go ahead and finish this out. And there we go. So we even have a few extra, but now we have 600 tier 5 blocks, which means all we have to do now is finally grab all of our tier 6 stone, which throws our boy into a panic because we have a ton of stuff on us. We're going to use all of our focus as to try to get as much of it done as possible. We might not be able to get quite 600, but we'll get pretty close, and we'll at least be able to get a couple of upgrades. So we ended up getting roughly 465 blocks, which I'm pretty happy with. We will use these, but I would like to get all the way up to 600, which is going to take a lot of silver. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and finally dip into our silver bags that we have been hoarding for quite some time. And this is one of the reasons why I hold on to them. So in case of emergency, I can just go ahead and use these. So now we are almost at 1.1 million silver. And if we really need more, we still have 31,000 faction points to go through, which is about 600,000 silver. So if we still need more cash, we can get it that way. But regardless of the situation, I still need more tier 4 stone to transmute, so we are going to have to go gather that. So I will be back. We're making meaningful progress towards my personal goal, and we will have it very shortly. After probably my third inventory of gathering for at least today, I've been really enjoying watching some Netflix. You know, it's going pretty well. We got a pretty solid looking inventory here. From the looks of it, we already have all the tier 5 blocks we need, of course. So realistically, all we have to do is get some tier 6 stone. And from the looks of it, we need 150 blocks. So that means we need a total of course, 600 stone. So we're only going to do the amount that we actually need. We don't want to go super far over, as it is, of course, expensive. And we do have a resource return rate, which does help with that. But this is going to cost us around 800,000 silver. A little painful, but it's just what we have to do. And we ended up going through all of our nutrition in our stonecutter, which isn't super surprising. We've actually been doing so much involving her. So we're going to have to grab a touch more food in order to continue our process. We're going to go ahead and dump our extra resources, because right now all we actually need right now is our tier 5 blocks and tier 6 stone. And so here we go. We're going to be making the last few blocks that we're going to be needing. This took a lot of silver, probably close to 3 to 4 million silver, and pretty much all day of gathering. But we're going to be easily pushing ourselves over 600 tier 6 blocks, which means we can upgrade a few things, and we will get to that here in just a while. Of course, we still had a couple of things to do, and on the road to doing that, we ended up getting the learning point for lumber gathering for tier 5s. We got to tier 5 plank making, which went ahead and just let me grab the learning for tier 5 lumber gathering, and then also work towards the tier 5 lumber crafter, which didn't take too long. Well, I say that. That's going to pass by really quick for you guys, but it actually took me quite a while to get everything like that together. But on to the next thing that we did. We ended up just messing around on stream. I got a cultist robe and a 4.2 blazing staff, which I decided to try out in both PVM and also notably some one-man Hellgate PvP. I have a 1v2 win somewhere in here, but I don't know where it is and I didn't find it. But I won one 1v2. I did not win any other 1v2s, and I got a lot of those. And I've won every single 1v1 that I was in except for one. So I'd say it went pretty okay overall, you know, it's not bad. So we have a couple of things to move on to talk about, and most notably back onto the grind for the primary goal of this episode. But I will mention that I actually did get a tier 8 demon crest. I don't have any intentions on using this anytime soon, but I got it. Other than that, the loot was incredibly lackluster. I got a bunch of tomes that I will use, but anyway, on to the rest of the video. So I pretty much decided that I'm not going to be using the Clarent Blade long term, especially at least right now, because I'm about to do a huge fame farm session, mostly because for the next video I have another specific goal that I'm going to be meeting, and so look forward to that. But basically I decided that I'm going to go ahead and just split off from the artifact sword tree entirely and focus on dual swords. So I made myself a pair of 5-1 dual swords to go ahead and use for my next grind, and I decided that because I was using a Clarent Blade, I got really used to having Parry Strike, which with a tier 5.1 sword, you just don't have unless you have an artifact. And so honestly, at that point was when I made the decision. I want a tier 6 sword. And of course, waiting for the RNG to get a sword like that just isn't really worth it. And so I took it upon myself to be able to get it with consistency. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the goal for this video. And one of the reasons why I made this a large selling point of this video is because it is a rather time-consuming project to take on. And there's a couple of reasons why. One of the reasons why is, of course, because it requires two types of materials. Getting to level 10 in something like a crafter or a gathering skill isn't terribly hard, because you can choose to make either just the armor, or maybe you want to mostly focus on doing other stuff with your time so you can do the tools. Using the armor is very easy, of course, because you can just do metal or just hide or whatever it takes, and it takes one material and you can go ahead and get it done quickly. For example, doing the Courier or the Miner to level 10 was only like 800 steel bars, which is like roughly 2 stacks of iron, which isn't really that bad. Of course, you have to have the 2 stacks of tier 3, which is a little bit of time. And one of the things that you have to remember is to get to tier 6 is you have to have level 30. And so even if it did scale, or even if it didn't scale at all, it would still take me over 2 stacks of steel bars to get from level 10 to level 30. But it does scale, and it scales a decent amount. So it's going to take more than that if I wanted to get level 30 in, say, a crafting skill for gathering. But for sword crafting, it's a little bit different. I have to gather 2 separate materials, and one of the materials I just really dislike gathering. I don't like gathering hide. It's not fun, but I have to do it. And I had to do a lot of it. It was very, very time consuming. However, we got through most of it, and we crafted a ton of swords. Now, I am studying all of these just to kind of maximize the amount of fame per material. But either way, it still just takes a lot. And this is what I spent probably the most of the last few days doing, is gathering exclusively for this goal. It's not super interesting, it's very time consuming, and so I did a little bit of a stream with this where I was doing a lot of gathering and just kind of messing about in general. But overall, this is what I spent the majority of my time working for this episode, and it's going to be very beneficial for us. So their journey in general was actually rather bland, I suppose. But one of the big things that I did have to talk about at one point is to finish up the last 8 levels of the sword crafting grind, I decided that I wanted to make Clarent blades. And here is my live commentary on that topic. So I've made a decently large decision. I am going to craft Clarent blades to get from level 22 to level 30 sword crafter. And one of the reasons why I'm going to be doing this is because I can get tier 4 runes really, really easily. And it basically gives me a significant increase to the amount of fame per material that I'm using. And right now, I'm just running low on nutrition, so I don't want to have to be time locked, and gathering fish is just very time consuming, and it's not very efficient considering I should be using it to make fish sauce instead of using it to make grilled fish. And I'm out of carrot soup at this point, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going to our guild, and we are going to be taking out all of our siphoned energy. What we're going to be doing with this is we're going to be trying to get as many blood forged blades as possible. So on average, it's going to take us 450 to get one. My estimations are I need roughly 60 to level up. So I need 27,000 runes, ideally, to complete this goal. So the question is, can I get 27,000 runes? No, but I can get 22,500, which is actually pretty decent. So that's what I'm going to be investing all of my siphon energy on. It's probably a waste, but one thing you have to keep in mind is if I wanted anything like a tier 6 relic, I can only get like 50. Like 50 isn't that much. Tier 7s, it's even lower, 16s, and I can craft 5 3s on my own. And eventually I'll be able to craft tier 6s on my own. So realistically, having these high tier relics doesn't actually do anything for me. And so we are going to just make 22,000. Oh, my game is not having a good time right now. Processing all of this crafting. Oh my. Oh gosh. Okay, well, we're almost done. Theoretically, we need roughly 60. If I'm using 4 1s, which I will use 4 1s for some of them, we actually only need like 40 or 50. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to shoot for at least 50, which lowers the amount that we actually need. And on my calculations, I took into the fact that you have a random 1 in 9 chance of actually receiving the Blood Forged Blade. I also will be able to, of course, salvage the ones that I don't want, so we'll see if I do that. But for now, we are going to just tear through all 22,000. I already had 1,000, so 23,000 Adept's Runes right here. We're going for the Bloodforged Blades. This is going to take a while. And so after, I kid you not, probably close to 30 minutes of sitting here and mashing this button, we ended up getting a pretty okay amount of Bloodforged Blades. It wasn't as many as I wanted. I think I mentioned that in this clip somewhere, but it was like 40 minutes long, and so I just compressed it for you guys, make it easy. And of course, it's kind of interesting to kind of watch them move and go up as I sit here and spam click this, if you guys can even see the numbers, because I'm in 720p. So after we did this, we ended up starting to actually go for level 30 swords using Clarent Blades, which it saved me a lot of time, even though the Siphon Energy was worth roughly 1 million silver on the market house. It has its own uses, at least for me anyway. So pretty solid use for it for me, and it saved me a lot of time in gathering, so I can't complain. But anyway, we ended up getting the number that we got, of course, and we used all of them pretty much. Okay, so we are actually only 11 or 17,000 fame away from the final goal. I could theoretically just study maybe like this and I get 6,000, but I'm just gonna go ahead and make a couple more swords. I'm gonna make a few of the duels just to kind of finish this off. Let's make like, I don't know, let's start with like 6 and see if that's enough. Probably not, but we'll see. Not sure. We got 8,000. And so yeah, we're definitely gonna make it here. This is fantastic. We're basic. That means we're done. We've finished the goal for this episode by going and tossing these all out the window. We've officially reached level 30 sword crafter, which means that we can craft our very own tier 6 weapons, which means we'll have access to the entirety of the skill tree for swords, even without having an artifact, which is very, very good, as the last few swords didn't actually have access to things like parry, which is a very powerful ability. And so the next thing that we're going to be doing to wrap this episode up is we're going to be making our very own pair of tier 6 dual swords. So let's get to it. After yet another brief intermission, we had to go gather some rough logs, which I now have almost 3,000 of. That should hopefully get us a couple of building upgrades so I don't have to do it again anytime soon. So we're finally going to be wrapping up this video with the third and final take of trying to get our sword crafted. I know it's going to work this time. I'm sure it's going to work. So if we go over here to our blacksmith, we have all the blocks, all the stone in place. We just need the wood, and now we have that. 300 stone blocks. By the way, those 300 stone blocks cost me like roughly 1.5 million silver, just so you know. Alright, and now we can finally craft, holy shit, we can finally craft ourselves a tier 6 sword, which gives us access to parry strike, and if I wanted to, increase defense. So yeah, this is it. This is what I've been working for the last like 5 days. There we go. A flat 996 item power off of just a regular flat tier 6, which is absolutely fantastic. So now we can go back to our island. We can grab some tier 6 runes, of which I have an absolute ton of, and turn this 6 into a 6.1. Now we can push this to 1096 item power, which is glorious. And then yet again, onward up to 1200 IP. This is by far the highest IP weapon we've ever had on this account, and I am absolutely just over the moon with it. It's going to be very, very good, because normally our maximum was probably like 4.2 realistically, or 5.1, which had us at a damage of a tier 6 equivalent, which is, of course, a 663 on the E, and this has us at 813, which is actually really, really good because, of course, damage multipliers will help a lot. So there we go. Just wow. 6.2 Master Dual Swords crafted by yours truly. Absolutely fantastic. And we are gonna just go and start making use of it because we have a lot of dungeons to clear and a lot of fame to get. And there you have it. We are now going to start working on our very next goal. And the next goal is to have level 100 mastery in my setup that I will be using for corrupted dungeons. swords, leather armors, scholar cowl, so cloth cowl, and soldier boots, or maybe even guardians, so plate boots. By the next episode, we will have all of those masteries to level 100, and we'll start getting our very own free combat respec points. I'll see you guys there. I hope you enjoyed this very long video. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's been fantastic, and I have work to do. I'll see you guys then, and yeah, have a good one, guys.